there, I'm Leah B. Jackson, and today I'm joined by pro gamer Greg Fields, also known as Idra.
Hey, Leah.
Hey. Get ready, as we're about to show you the best way to play as Tychus in Heroes of the Storm. Let's get to it.
Yep, let's go.
All right, here we are in try mode with Tychus. Why don't you tell us a little bit about him and his abilities?
Sure. Tychus is a really interesting hero. He's possibly the best sustained DPS in the game, but he has some downsides as well to make up for that. Keep in mind, he does have amazing DPS. However, to do that, he has to pretty much stand still in the middle of team fights. He has very short range, and he has to take a lot of time to wind up his minigun and get it firing. So there's a lot of trade-offs with him, but if you can get him working properly, he does amazing amounts of damage. The reason for that is his passive, his minigun. And what that does is it causes you to not attack at all at first. If you watch this, it took a second for me to even start firing, and then over time, the DPS, the attack speed, increases up to a certain amount. The numbers are a little bit unclear. It's kind of weirdly described, but it's much, much higher than any other hero. So you end up doing just an absolute ton of damage, but over time. So it really takes you a long time to deal your damage. We'll discuss more about how to play around that in the future sections, but right now we're just going to look at his abilities. His Q is called Overkill, and what that is it focuses his minigun on a target, but it also does AoE in a cone. It's retargetable, so I can target it here, and I can target it here, all throughout the duration, and it just splashes that entire area with pretty decent damage. And that's your AoE, that's your wave clear, and it also allows you to chase. One of the biggest things is you lose a lot of your DPS as Tychus if you are moving while you should be shooting, because you have to cancel a lot of attacks, and with high attack speed, that's very, very punishing. But if you turn on Overkill, you can actually move, and you continue to fire, so you can chase down enemies much more easily this way. Now, your W ability is a frag grenade, and that is a ground targeted, and it just shoots out a grenade that bursts, and it's a knockback as well. So the damage is decent, but not super important. The bigger thing is the knockback. You can use that to set up kills very easily. For instance, he's over here. I want to knock him closer to me so I can do more damage, so I shoot it behind him, knock him into me, and then I can just shoot at him a bit for free. Then your E, as always, is your mobility escape option. It's a pretty short range compared to Vala Stumble or the barrel roll from Falstad, so you have to keep that in mind. You don't have as much escape as you would if you were playing a hero like that. So that is something to keep in mind. Another interesting aspect of this is it instantly winds up your minigun when you use it. So normally if I just walk up and click on him, you see that little wind up animation. However, my wind up is gone now, so I'm just going to E in, and it immediately goes at full speed. So that's something to keep in mind, but usually you won't use that to initiate because it leaves you too exposed. Now, the heroic ability we're going to be using here is Commandeer Odin, and what you do is you activate that, and it immediately drops down an Odin. It has a build time, but an important thing to note is that you gain the additional HP from the Odin immediately. So that gives you a second health bar that you can use to dodge death if you time it correctly. And that happens instantaneously, so it's not too hard to do. In this mode, you have two abilities. Annihilate, which just... oh, it actually... there we go. Do that again. And your Q, Annihilate, is just a line of missiles. It does damage, very simple, not much else. And then Ragnarok Missiles is just an activate it, and it shoots missiles at everything in the AoE. So just a little bit of additional DPS, very simple. But more often than not, you're going to use this ability to dodge stuff and keep Tychus alive. Then you're actually going to use it for its damage output and any kind of actual impact it's going to have on the game.
Sweet, now let's go take a look at those talents.
So for the talents for Tychus, you have to build an interesting mix of survivability and damage because he kind of has to be up close and personal. His run and gun doesn't escape him that well. So he really needs a little bit of survivability along with his damage, and his high attack speed gives him pretty good inherent DPS, so you don't have to focus on that as much as you do with other damage dealers. So for level 1, we're going to take Path of the Warrior, which gains additional health per level. This will just contribute to his overall HP pool, make him a little bit tankier. As I said, other options at this level are pretty lackluster. Dash increases the range of run and gun, but it's much better to be able to stand and fight than to run away better. At level 4, Focus Attack does not make sense at all with his kit. That's only for one attack. Each attack he has hits very weakly. Everything about him is attack speed, so that doesn't really do anything. But Vampiric Assault is absolutely perfect for him. He is the definition of sustained damage dealer. The longer the fight goes, the better he is. And Vampiric Assault is perfect for that. It'll keep him nice and topped up HP-wise as he does damage to the other team. For level 7, we're going to get Rapid Fire. This is an addition to your trait. After your minigun winds up for 3 seconds, you gain 50% increased attack speed. Huge buff to your DPS, especially as the game progresses and you gain more and more damage per attack. 50% increased attack speed is a huge deal. Everything else here, not that big. bigger range on frag grenade. It's already pretty big, and you're not a utility hero. You're not a caster. You're a right clicker. You need to focus on that. And first aid and searing attack, not even worth considering. Commandeer Odin is the ultimate that I'm recommending. I don't feel like it actually does that much, but I feel like the hero does enough, and Odin is just useful as kind of an escape mechanism, or to use early on in the fight in order to burn all of your enemy cooldowns. You pop that right away, you wait until their important spells are on cooldown, and then Tychus will pop on out, and he can go ahead and kill everyone like he wants to. Draken Laser Drill is the other ultimate that's worth considering for area control. It is a good amount of DPS if you actually fight under it, but I really feel like the survivability from Odin is a little bit more important. At level 13, you have a couple options. You have Stim Pack, which gives 20% attack speed and 20% move speed for 3 seconds after using Run and Gun. That is a pretty good ability. It gives you a little bit more escape, and for good fights, it allows you to charge in and do a lot more damage right off the bat. So, worth considering, but generally speaking, Giant Killer is going to be fantastic on him. Worth noting that it is only 0.5% instead of 1.5% as is with most heroes to compensate for his higher attack speed, but is still a huge, huge buff to your DPS. Then at level 16, pretty much the same option. You can get Executioner, which is 50% bonus damage for CC'd opponents. So if you have a team that has a lot of slows and stuns and whatnot, that's going to be great. But if you need more survivability or you don't have that lockdown to apply Executioner, Lock and Load gives you 15% increased movement speed while the minigun is wound up. This allows you to chase down, it gives you a little bit more maneuverability in fight, just general mobility is always a plus. Then at level 20, Fury of the Storm, almost definitely the best option on him. The increased Odin is not really that good. Like I said, it's not that useful in its own right, it's more just to help him escape some damage and some cooldowns. But Fury of the Storm, with his attack damage, with his DPS, it's just a huge, huge buff to his overall damage output, and he wants to sit in the middle of team fights, so he's going to be doing a ton of splash damage with this ability. So go for Fury of the Storm almost every time.
Awesome. So with Tychus, you want to grab a little bit of survivability, but then start taking talents that help you auto-attack enemies down for the most part.
Yep.
Cool. Well, now that we've seen his talents, how does he play in-game?
Tychus, early game, is very, very weak. He starts out very squishy, only 400 some HP right off the bat, I believe. And his auto attacks obviously take time to wind up, so that makes him very bad in lane. Is generally just want to walk up and shoot a bit and run away immediately. Sustained fights are not good for squishies like him. His grenade does have some kill potential. It's very good at setting up attacks. The problem is it generally tends to put you in much closer than you'd rather be in order to get the proper angle to get the knockback on it. And your run and gun can help you get out as long as you maintain that, but overall he's not looking to do a whole lot early on. Late game is really his wheelhouse. Early game he's just trying to survive and get the talents that he needs to actually do damage. But once you do get into that team fight portion of the game where he has some talents, he has that damage going, you're going to play like you're halfway between a tank and a ranged damage dealer like a volley. You're going to be in closer, your range is shorter, and the big thing is you don't want to be moving too much. You kind of just want to stand and shoot, because for every second that you're not moving, you're missing out on a ton of auto attacks and a ton of damage relative to someone who hits harder but has a lower attack speed. So you really don't want to be moving too much. You really just want to stand and shoot. And the problem with this is you're not super survivable, so you have to be very careful about how you pick your fights and who else you have on your team. You have to have a lot of peel for yourself. They really have to keep you safe. But if they do so, you have probably the highest auto attack damage in the game. So it's really just a matter of picking where you set up to fight and then just standing there and putting out the damage. Now to play against this, it is scary because he puts out a ton of damage and he will kill you if you just stand still for a second. But there is plenty of counterplay. The biggest thing is, early on, if you catch him, you can kill him. And into the mid and late game, you really can't let the warrior class fool you. He is not going to be very tanky. He's going to be a bit tankier than a Nova, for sure. But given how close he has to stand to you, and how bad his escape is, relatively speaking, and how squishy he is, relatively speaking, if he walks up to do his damage, you can probably just focus him down and kill him. If his team isn't doing a good job of protecting him, or if he isn't absolutely perfect with his positioning, just go ahead and focus him down. Either force him out of the fight with too low HP to re-engage, or you just flat out kill him.
And there you have it, guys. But remember, this is our best way to play, and we want to hear yours in the comments.
Be sure to head over to Greg's Twitch channel for more pro tips, and for everything Heroes of the Storm, stay tuned to IGN.